Imagine you meet hundreds of people every day. Some just pass by. Some leave a mark on your heart. And some change the direction of your life. Have you ever thought, how does this difference happen? Why does one person get lost in the crowd while another shines in the same crowd? Why do some people understand without being told, while others misunderstand even when explained? Why do some relationships form effortlessly while others sink despite forced efforts? The answer is one: interpersonal psychology. Michael Argyle's book, The Psychology of Interpersonal Behavior, tells us exactly what every person in the world wants to understand. How do people think? How do they react? How do they build relationships? How are they influenced? And how does one person reach another? Through heart, mind, and behavior. In today's motivational and life-changing video, we'll understand every concept of this book in a practical, emotional, and inspirational way so that you can become a better communicator, understand people deeply, build strong relationships, feel confident, powerful, and grounded in every interaction. This isn't just psychology. This is the science of human excellence. Chapter 1. The Truth of Human Interaction. Imagine you enter a room. As the door opens, there's a slight silence in the air. But behind that silence are people's gazes, sharp, curious, and a bit alert. Suddenly, 10 people's eyes lift toward you. And in just a few seconds, your mind starts its own world of analysis. Without any words, you scan those faces and your mind creates categories. Who can be trusted? Who is alert? Who is confident? Who looks weak? Who is neutral? Who seems like you? This isn't a consciously made decision. This is an ancient instinct, thousands of years of biological wiring that taught us to survive. We think we're logical, but interpersonal interactions don't always run on logic. They run on signals. These signals come from eyes, from a slight smile on the face, from posture, and from energy. Michael Argyle says, human interaction is like a dance. But this dance doesn't run on steps. It runs on signals. Two people interact together. One says something, the other responds. The first sends a nonverbal cue, the second decodes it. And this entire process continues without pause, without instruction, and without rehearsal. There's no script, no plan, just spontaneous negotiation happening continuously. In every interaction, there's an invisible negotiation. What should I think about you? What do you think about me? Do you feel threat from me or comfort? Am I useful to you or irrelevant? Are you in my group or outside it? All the significant decisions we make in life, jobs, friendships, partnerships, alliances, collaborations, all go through interpersonal decoding. We think we decide on facts, but often our mind gives a verdict just by seeing an eyebrow movement, a micro smile, a shaky tone, or a confident stance. And this verdict isn't always wrong, because evolutionary psychology has trained us with data from millions of interactions. Who's a threat? Who's support? Who's trustworthy? Who's manipulative? This instinct is amazing, reading people without speaking, without asking. The most interesting part, this isn't just about others. This process is also running about you. Just as you're reading others, others are reading you. Maybe you're appearing serious, maybe nervous, maybe unapproachable, maybe a bit distant. The entire game of interpersonal behavior is in this two-way decoding. And this is where psychology becomes motivational. Because as soon as you understand that no interaction is random but runs on predictable psychological rules, the world suddenly becomes not difficult and scary, but understandable. You realize every person is a bit insecure. Every person wants validation. Every person wants acceptance. And every person also fears rejection, judgment, loneliness. When this understanding settles that we're all on the same battlefield, just wearing different armor, you stop fearing people. Interactions suddenly seem manageable. Confidence comes from here, when you realize people aren't fundamentally different from you. You feel powerful because now you understand the game. Signals, decoding, negotiation, rapport building. These are all skills, and skills improve with learning. This very realization makes interpersonal behavior not just psychology, but the biggest gateway to self-improvement. Chapter 2. Nonverbal communication. The most is said without speaking. Michael Argyle explains that we often assume communication means words, sentences, and talk. But the truth is, words are only a small part of communication. Our mind understands less from words and more from signals. Research says approximately 7% of our communication is verbal, and the rest of the entire game is nonverbal signals. What is the face saying? How are the eyes reacting? Is there warmth or coldness in the voice? Is the posture open or shrunken? Are gestures confident or hesitant? And the most subtle thing, what's the vibe? Often we say one thing, but feel something else. We say, I'm fine, but our eyes express fatigue or pain. We smile, but there's a hollowness hidden in that smile that trained eyes can feel. Our shoulders drop, voice becomes soft, or steps become slow, and the other person understands without asking that something's wrong. This is the power of nonverbal communication. The body doesn't lie. It releases truth. The most interesting thing, nonverbal signals don't just affect others. They also affect us. When you sit in straight posture, keep shoulders back, take deep breaths, and maintain eye contact, your mind generates confidence. It's not that posture causes confidence. Rather, posture is external evidence of self-respect, and the mind works on evidence. When you talk with open gestures, the other person subconsciously feels trust. When your eyes have sincerity, relationships strengthen. When your tone is calm, influence increases. And when your presence is composed, people naturally get attracted to your vibe. Nonverbal communication is motivational because it's skill-based, not luck-based. Anyone can manipulate words, but to influence the world through body language requires awareness. The first step of this awareness is observing your own signals. Slowly, it starts feeling that communication isn't just speaking, it's living. The world doesn't react to what you say, but reacts to who you are and how you present yourself to the world. Mastering this means you're moving toward mastering not just conversation, but your entire life. Chapter 3. Interpersonal Skills. What school doesn't teach. Success in the world doesn't come only to those who have technical skills. Many people are very intelligent, very educated, work very hard, but still can't move forward in life. On the other hand, there are people who seem average, speak average, do average work, but their contacts are strong, their relationships warm, and their presence impactful. The difference isn't in talent. The difference is in interpersonal skills. That's why it said, the world isn't run by skillful people. The world is run by smart people. Michael Argyle says, a person can do a lot alone, but together with people, they can do exponentially more. The condition is, they must understand people. The first pillar of interpersonal skills is being present. We listen very little in conversation. Mostly we prepare answers. But the person who truly listens creates a place in the other's heart. Listening isn't just hearing words. It's understanding the other person's emotions, their fears, and their world. The second pillar is empathy, feeling yourself in the other's place. Every person in the world internally wants someone to understand them, not judge them, and listen to their story. Empathy is the biggest bridge connecting relationships. Then comes warmth, the warmth that exists in vibe. People aren't always impressed by words, but they instantly connect or disconnect with vibe. When your presence has warmth, people feel safe around you. Understanding assertiveness is also necessary in interpersonal growth. Being assertive doesn't mean being aggressive. It means creating boundaries and respecting your own emotions. This is an art. Saying without hurting, refusing without guilt, and standing up for yourself without being defensive. Additionally, there's the art called adaptability that makes people natural leaders. Every person has a different personality, some fast, some slow, some analytical, some emotional. Those who adjust themselves according to environment and people gain influence. The most beautiful thing, these skills don't come from birth. A person is born without any social skills. They observe them, make mistakes, and then learn. This very thing makes it motivational. You're not boring, you're just untrained. And training can happen at any age. If the world runs on interpersonal understanding, then this skill can change your entire life. Chapter 4. Relationships. Why do they form? How do they last? How do they break? Michael Argyle explains relationships through three basic pillars: attraction, maintenance, and breakdown. All three have their own psychology, and this very psychology determines whether two people will come close, stay together, or slowly drift apart. Attraction to someone seems sudden, but subtle patterns work behind it. Attraction often starts with similarity. When two people recognize something common within themselves, whether it's thinking, habits, humor, or passion for something. Proximity, physical or emotional distance, also increases attraction because closeness creates familiarity, and familiarity creates comfort. Warmth, a sense of belonging, is also important because every person in the world wants to stay close to someone around whom they feel safe and respected. And validation, the feeling that I exist, I matter, works like glue in relationships. A person seeming good doesn't necessarily mean they're perfect. They seem good because they see us, understand us, and accept us in the form we are. The second pillar of relationships is maintenance. People think saving relationships requires a lot of effort. But the truth is, relationships last on awareness. Often we take everything to heart, consider every word a weapon, and make every reaction personal. This is how relationships weaken. Relationships strengthen when we start understanding. Why did someone say that? Why did someone choose silence? Why did someone's tone change? In relationships, people don't look for perfect partners. They look for partners who make them feel important, valued, and understood. Many people believe love is enough. But love is an emotion, and emotion doesn't do maintenance. Maintenance is done by communication, respect, empathy, and boundaries. The third pillar is breakdown. Relationships don't break in one day. Breaking starts from very subtle and ordinary things. Misunderstandings, small silences, unspoken expectations, casual disrespect, and slowly increasing emotional distance. And the biggest killer, after a point, we stop talking to each other. We keep things inside, expecting the other person will understand without being told. But in relationships, telepathy doesn't work. Communication does. Not talking accumulates misunderstanding, and misunderstanding turns into distance. Finally, the relationship doesn't break. It just fades. The motivational insight of this chapter is exactly this. Loving is easy. Maintaining love is an art. In relationships, what matters more than how much you love is how you communicate that love. Communication is a skill, and skills can improve if there's intention to learn. Relationships aren't accidental, they're cultivated. And whoever understands relationship psychology starts understanding not only others, but their own life better. Chapter 5. Social Influence. How are people influenced? Michael Argyle explains that influence doesn't arise from force or pressure. Influence arises from consistency and clarity. We often assume people follow those who are most powerful, speak most, or have authority. But psychology says real leadership comes from people who are predictable, grounded, and in whose presence people feel safe. This is why the roots of influence are in stability, not noise. Consistent people give this message. They're trustworthy, their reactions won't suddenly change, their words have meaning, and their decisions align with their values. Social influence runs on several rules. First rule is authority. Authority doesn't come only from position or power. Authority also comes from confidence. The world trusts people who trust themselves. When you see someone speaking with clarity, explaining with calmness, or making decisions without seeking validation, the mind subconsciously puts them in the authority category. Second rule is likability. People don't always follow perfect people. They follow real people. Likability is built from warmth, honesty, and authenticity, and it shows that influence works on emotional connection. Third rule is reciprocity. The world runs on value exchange. When you give someone value, support, respect, or help, the other person naturally gets influenced and often returns value. Influence isn't transactional, it's relational. Fourth rule is social proof. Humans have been herd animals. We do what others seem to be doing. This is why crowd becomes strength, and majority gives direction to decisions. Social proof shows that people fear making decisions alone, so they look for consensus and patterns. The real inspiration of this chapter: influence isn't a game of loudness. For leadership, you don't need to be aggressive, dominant, or intimidating. To be influential, you need to be clear so people can understand your intentions. You need to be kind so people feel safe around you. You need to be consistent so people know you can be trusted. When you do this, influence comes automatically. You don't need to chase influence. Influence chases you. Chapter 6: Conflict, not fight. Result of wrong communication. Michael Argyle's most interesting observation: at the root of most conflicts isn't hatred, it's misunderstanding. We think people fight because they dislike each other. But the truth is, people fight because they feel the other person isn't understanding them, isn't listening to them, or isn't valuing their emotions. Conflict is fundamentally not struggle, but lack of acknowledgement. This is the place where two people are putting forth their own stories, and both are hoping the other will understand their story. But no one is ready to listen. The interesting thing in conflict: both sides often consider themselves right. No one sees themselves as the villain. Every person considers their perspective rational, logical, and justified. This is why fights get more tangled instead of resolved. Often the matter is so small that later you laugh, thinking, why did the fight even happen? But at that moment, ego and hurt seem so big that a small thing becomes a mountain. The biggest factor in this ego: you didn't understand, you didn't listen, or you didn't care. This very mental gap is conflict's real fuel. Argyle says, conflict ends when one person tries to listen and understand. Understanding isn't surrender, it's strength. Understanding someone doesn't mean their words. It means understanding the emotion, fear, insecurity, and pain inside them. When we listen to someone, we validate that their emotion is genuine, even if their words aren't perfect. Validation melts hostility and calms defensive behavior. Conflict is motivational because it teaches us that communication isn't just speaking. Communication is establishing connection. Many relationships break because people stop speaking, not because they stop fighting. Silence is often conflict's final stage because in silence, misunderstanding grows and distance forms. That's why healthy conflict is the breath of any relationship. Improvement comes from there, clarity comes from there, and compassion is born from there. And finally, a simple truth: no relationship lasts because people never fight. A relationship lasts because even after fighting, people try to understand each other and reconnect. This very effort saves relationships from breaking, and this very effort makes humans deeper. Chapter 7: Self in Interpersonal Behavior. Understanding yourself is the biggest victory. Michael Argyle reveals a very important truth in this chapter. The beginning of interpersonal behavior doesn't start outside, but from within. All the relationships we build, all the conversations we have, all the connections we hope for, their foundation isn't only who the other person is, but how we see ourselves. Our behavior with the world, our tone, our boundaries, our warmth, and our vulnerability, all are direct reflections of our inner voice. That's why Argyle says, understanding yourself is necessary even before understanding the world, because inner clarity determines outer harmony. Self-image is the foundation of interpersonal behavior. If you think you're weak, can't influence people, your value is low, you're not worthy of love, then the world will start seeing you through that same lens. Your body language will shrink, voice will have hesitation, self-doubt will show in words, and unconsciously you'll present your value as less. Conversely, if your self-perception is grounded, balanced, and confident, then your very presence gives a message that you respect yourself, and the world gives you that same respect back. Self-acceptance is the real foundation of interpersonal success. Acceptance doesn't mean being perfect. It means understanding both your strengths and flaws and giving yourself permission to be human. When you accept yourself, you stop seeking acceptance from others. You don't beg for validation. You live connections not as compulsion, but as choice. This brings natural stability to your relationships, because now you don't react from insecurity, but respond from clarity. Inner security makes relationships safe. An insecure person gets scared by the slightest thing. Rejection, silence, changes. They often overthink, draw wrong conclusions, and navigate relationships based on their fears. But a person who's internally secure can calmly address misunderstandings, set boundaries, express themselves, and give others space. Security shows in presence, and this presence gives relationships depth. The motivational core is very simple. Your outer world is an extension of your inner world. If there's conflict inside, there'll be conflict outside. If there's chaos inside, you won't find clarity outside. But if there's peace within, if there's self-awareness, if there's emotional maturity, then outer relationships bloom like flowers. Interpersonal behavior isn't a game of words. It's a reflection of the soul's state. That's why the greatest art of understanding others begins with understanding yourself. When you connect with yourself, every interaction becomes purposeful, respectful, and meaningful. This is the biggest interpersonal victory, making your inner world beautiful so the outer world can also feel that beauty. Chapter 8. The goal of human interaction, connection, not perfection. Michael Argyle emphasizes, the real goal of human relationships isn't perfection, but connection. We often walk in the social world with the illusion that people want flawless performance, ideal behavior, or perfect personality from us. But the truth is completely opposite. People don't look for perfect humans. They look for real humans. People with vulnerability, warmth, and truth. The root of connection is in authenticity, not in polish or pretense. Connection forms when two humans genuinely take interest in each other's worlds. It starts with simple gestures, listening carefully, not interrupting in between, and valuing the other person's story. Listening isn't just a task of taking information. It's a task of giving acknowledgement, showing that what you're saying is important. When a person feels heard, they automatically open up and relationships deepen. Understanding is connection's second layer. Understanding means absorbing the other person's emotions, fears, hopes, and insecurities. We all want someone to read us without judging. Respect comes after this. Respect brings dignity to relationships. Respect also gives birth to boundaries. Boundaries don't reduce love. Boundaries protect love. Boundaries determine where we end and the other person begins. Healthy boundaries are the foundation on which mature relationships stand. Connection also breathes through kindness. Kindness isn't just the name of good words, but the name of that intention which gives others a safe space. Even a small smile, a warm gesture, or a thoughtful comment can create connection, because kindness has the power of healing. Chasing perfection makes a person rigid, anxious, and self-conscious. Living with presence makes them spontaneous, open, and alive. Connection runs on presence, on that time when you're actually there, not mentally absent. This is what makes relationships meaningful. Finally, the matter is simple. People in this world look for a place where they're liked, not where they're assessed. The seed of connection sprouts only when we give ourselves permission to be human. No need to be perfect, need to be present. Presence is that subtle magic that connects hearts and makes life warm. Conclusion. Wherever you are in life today, you didn't reach there alone. Someone showed the way, someone gave courage, someone explained, someone stopped and listened, someone forgave mistakes, and someone believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself. This is interpersonal behavior. This is human psychology. This is life. And remember, the day you learn to understand people, you start winning the world. If you like this video and want more deep videos on similar psychology, behavior, social skills, and relationships, write in comments. More psychology videos. Do subscribe to the channel and tell us which part of this video felt most real to you.